Okay. I think we're ready. Josh? Mine's on. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Highlands Town Board of Commissioners meeting for September 21st, 2023. Welcome. And the first item on the agenda will be a moment of silence. Commissioner Patterson will not be here tonight. She's dealing with a serious family matter. I hope you'll keep her in your thoughts. So would you join me for a moment of silence? Thank you. Now, if we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our third item would be the statement of conflict of interest. It is here printed in the agenda packet. If any commissioner has a conflict of interest on any matter before the board, of course, they're expected to state that prior to that business decision. The next item would be public comment. I'd like to invite the public to come speak at our podium. If you would, please state your name for the record. Hold your comments, hopefully, to 3 minutes or so, but I will now open the floor for any public comment. Seems like we have no one who would like to make public comment tonight. So we will now move on to item number 5, and that is to review and approve the agenda. Do we have any changes, additions, or corrections to the proposed agenda?
Move to approve it as presented.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. We have an agenda. The next item would be the approval of the regular meeting minutes for August the 17th. Do we have any changes or corrections to those minutes?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand, saying aye. Thank you. Gibby, I wanted to make the special meeting or the closed session minutes. We're not approving those tonight, correct? Okay, in closed session. Thank you. All right, let us now move on then to reports, and starting with the mayor's report. I'll be attending the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting of the Regional Planning Commission this coming week. I will also be hosting and holding the community coffee with the mayor. That will be at the Hudson Library this Friday, September the 29th at 11 a.m. Our guest will be, and I've got my fingers crossed, but our guest is supposed to be Representative Carl Gillespie, who represents this district, and Senator Kevin Corbin. And we've been trying to set this up now for several months with the idea that the legislature would be adjourned and they would be free to come and talk about what happened in the legislative session. As you know, that they had some movement this week on the budget, possibly tomorrow, an approval of the budget, and hopefully our representatives and senator will be at this meeting to talk to us about the legislative session. Couple of things that we already know. First of all, we had requested money for Mirror Lake dredging, and we have requested money for the upgrading of our water department, our water plant. We were very optimistic that we'd get funding for both of those projects. Unfortunately, it looks like there's no money in this session for the Mirror Lake dredging. I talked with the representative of the Improvement Association for Mirror Lake today, Pat Gleason, to tell him what the situation is. And, you know, my commitment, and I think the board and the community will still have a commitment that we need to get this done. We need to start with phase one. We'll continue to work with our legislative delegation to see if there's some way we can get some state support at a later date. So while it's disappointing that we didn't get any funding for that project, we'll continue to try to see if we cannot secure funding for it. The other thing, though, is there is in the budget, at the last time I checked, $5 million for our water plant. Specifically, we need to address the replacement of the pre-clarifier tank, which is going to cost several $1 million. Right now, I know Lamar Nix has been working with CK Dixon, an engineering company, to start doing the plans for that. And then this money will be forthcoming, hopefully, once that budget has been approved. That's good news because that means that we get state funding instead of having to use local tax dollars to upgrade our water department and the water plant. And I want to thank our representatives for advocating that and making sure that we got a share of that state money for those kind of projects. So that's all I have. I'll now ask if any of the commissioners have any reports or updates that they would like to share. Okay.
The first one is this scholarship golf tournament that is going to be held October 23rd at Sky Valley. We have the registrations open, and it's been very well received. So we've got about 7 spots left for that, 7 foursomes that is, and we are also doing $250 hole sponsors this year as well. So I just wanted to put that out there if anybody knows anybody that's interested. But if you have any, need more information on that, just see myself or Rebecca. And then the second thing I wanted to say is that we have received a preliminary plan from this playground group that we're working on. And there'll be more information, like I keep saying, coming about that. But that initial plan is going to be reviewed by the committee that we set up on October 2nd. So it's kind of exciting to see that materializing and having something in hand that we'll be able to start fundraising for.
Okay. And Commissioner, since I'm not a golfer, I still can make a contribution to the
We
to
will
the
take your
tournament.
money, yes.
Yes, okay.
And Mr. Mayor, I agree. I appreciate what you and Josh did on the water plant. I've been worried about it for years, and this appropriation will help us get caught up and be
Yes.
where we need to be. And because COVID didn't help and supply chain didn't help, but this money will help us get caught up, and it's extremely important.
Thank you. I agree. Yes. Okay, any more reports from commissioners? Hearing none, I'll defer to our town manager, Josh Ward, your report.
A couple of updates on some projects we have going on. Poplar Street water line replacement from 64 out here down to the town shed to a 6-inch ductile iron line with fire protection. It's finally coming together. They're bringing the materials in this week, and hopefully next week they'll start construction, and that'll take about 30 days. Also, the Gibson Street project we've been working on for months and months now. We've basically been given the go-ahead for that. Bryson's has been selected as the low bidder. And they will be hopefully starting within 30 days, depending on if they can get their materials in place. Also, Dog Mountain, just to give an update, still waiting on approval of the engineering reports from the state. The state has so many reviews they have to do with all this money that's being handed out. They said it was supposed to be back to us last week. We've not seen it. We've got one more day this week. When that comes to us and we've been approved on the engineering part of it, Withers Ravenel will be submitting a contract for the design, which hopefully you'll see next month. And that way we can move forward with final design on the Dog Mountain project.
Okay.
Also, the community building here, Paul Smith has been working on the upgrades for the ADA, and he's got that together. Been talking with Lester about that. It looks like a very good plan. There'll be a ramp coming up here on the outside, be able to get in this door with the ramp, the back door with the ramp. He was able to redo both bathrooms to ADA standards as well as the kitchen. It will not include the equipment that Doc Wilson had brought up a couple of years ago, but it'll be ready for that equipment if they decide to raise the money for it. So that'll be going out to bid here pretty soon, and we'll let you know back what happens there.
And Josh, with this impending $5 million for the water plant, it'll be similar to Dog Mountain in that we won't be able to fly through the project and the money. We'll have to go through a step process getting state review and approval.
It'll be step by step, just like the Dog Mountain process.
Okay, all right. Okay, next item will be the consent agenda. Do we have any questions concerning the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Second, okay, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. And then number 9, the chamber lease building agreement approval. At our last meeting, we asked our town attorney to come up with just a basic lease like we have had with the chamber for 1 year and bring it before the board. And during that time, we can look at issues such as what type of legislation the room tax and its allocation should be under. All of those things can be discussed in the coming year. But we have before us tonight in your packet a basic lease, which would not change any of the conditions for the chamber in the lease for 1 year while we do a complete review. Do we have any questions? Or Bob, would you like to make any comments?
No, the only comment I'll make is the lease is identical to the previous lease. And Mayor, as you correctly pointed out, it's a 1 year lease to buy that time to figure out what our next steps are.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the Chamber of Commerce building lease.
second. Okay. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. We'll move on. Item number 10, the Highway 106 sidewalk discussion. Josh Ward has a report.
So Lamar Nix, Alex Stillwell, our engineer, and I met with Mitchell Bishop and Aaron Powell, both construction engineers with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. We met on site down on Highway 106 to look at the proposal, showed the area that we would have to leave the side of the road and go down into the Shelby Place property. And they gave us some feedback on that. The following are some requirements along with some concerns that they expressed. First off, they said when you leave the side of a right of way, the side of the road like that, they treat that as a ramp. So there are certain standards that the DOT has for a ramp. It'll drop down to different landings at different grades. And you go back and forth basically from landing to landing until you get down to the level area. Those are some requirements that would be in place for that we would have to design for. Also, an environmental impact study would be required due to the close proximity to the stream, which we knew there was some concern about the structural integrity of the side of the road, because the bank basically drops straight off from the edge of Highway 106 right directly into the stream in that area. So there would be some concerns over that. They had some concerns that would be, basically an hour lapse as far as the maintenance and liability of this walkway that would be scattered down in this wooded area from any, water, moss growth, snow, things like that. The lack of lighting in the area, in the wooded area, were just some concerns. When we looked at it, the town's water line runs right down the edge of the road right there, which is an issue for that side of the road in case we ever had a water leak. We'd have to tear up the sidewalk to repair the water leak and put the sidewalk back. There is a sewer line on the other side, but the water line is the most concern. The number of utility poles on that side of the road that will have to be relocated is a lot more than the opposite side of the road as well. And then the final thing that really is going to be the most major issue, I think, is we discussed before, there's a lot of money out for the Carbon Reduction Act grant, and there's not a whole lot of people applying. We've been wanting to apply for that, but the Region A staff said that it would have to meet ADA specifications, and they've reiterated that to us. They're ready to apply for us. They're actually the ones that will apply for us for this funding. And so the only way to do that would be to relocate to the other side of the road. So after we looked at it with the DOT and looked at it from a grant application standpoint, it makes more sense definitely to go to the right-hand side of the road going down for that. You get away from the stream, it would be cut into the slope there on that side, and we can meet ADA specifications.
Okay.
So that would be the recommendation of staff is to pick that side of the road and have Mr. Stillwell put together a proposal on numbers. As soon as we have his numbers, which should be pretty quick, and we can put those together and apply for this grant immediately, as quickly as possible. That's what the Region A staff said we needed to do. And it would be, if we received the grant, it would be at 80-20. We'd be responsible for 20%.
And I've even talked with one of the potential donors of this, and they indicated to me their support would be either on the left or right. They still would support that, which would help go toward that 20%.
I'm glad to hear that, though, because I would not, the more I think about this, I would not support the project unless it were ADA compliant. So I think it's good that we're flipping it to the other side.
So what's the request, Josh?
Direction from the board on which side to proceed with.
Right. Motion to proceed with the right side.
Well, let me say that, as you know, from the beginning, I've been a huge proponent of it going down the left-hand side. I think it's far better for the town, for future development. Going down the left-hand side, we've got Shelby Place. We've got the Old Creek Lodge property that will be developed at some point in the future. We have a number of homes down that side that are now occupied by people that walk into town for employment. I really, really am disappointed that it seems like if we go to the right-hand side of the road, there's no future service to anybody. What's there is what's there, and it's not going to be developed. There's no developable property going down the right-hand side of the road. We're going to have to take off a huge amount of bank going around towards Dusty's. We've also got a bank that drops off between Dusty's and that next house on down and the second house on down.
I really hate to see us abandon the left-hand side of the road for the potential of maybe a grant, which may or may not come. If there was some way to fish around and find out what the possibilities of that grant might be, I'd love to see that happen. We need a sidewalk down through there. If we go to the right-hand side of the road, we're gonna have to put in crosswalks. Period.
Well, we discussed that with DOT and they won't put a crosswalk in if there's not a platform or something on the other side. We experienced that with the sidewalk we put in at Trillium Place, which was the pervious sidewalk. The only way that they would actually put in a crosswalk was we come in and actually provided the ramp and everything on that side with the truncated dome, leading over to the ramp and the truncated dome on the other side of the road. So we did discuss that. Is that an option to put crosswalks periodically where these possible developments or the current developments are at? And they said no, because there's no sidewalk or pedestrian areas in that, on that side of the road.
Well, and again, you know, we're gonna have to, instead of starting from Bryson's and the Mitchell's property and going down, we're gonna have to back up to the post office to start all this.
Well,
So
there's
we
a sidewalk there, isn't there? There's a sidewalk at the post office.
Up to
isn't there?
the entryway.
up to the entry, going down past
Yeah, so it's just right.
the motel and everything down through there. There's not one. Well, we could, but the problem is, you know, we've got people that are coming up there now, walking up the side of the road, riding their bicycles up and down the side of the road, trying to get to work, going home. I mean, the need is there. The need is on the left-hand side of the road. The need is always going to be on the left-hand side of the road. Majority of the need, excuse me, is going to be on the left-hand side of the road. It's not going to be on the right. The right is developed for all intensive purposes, and I can beat my head up against the wall, but you know, people are going to have to cross to get to the right-hand side.
Yeah, I mean, I
The
agree.
people that are walking up there now are going to have to
Could it not be
cross the road to get to the sidewalk.
I agree with you.
Could it not-
You know, the other side's obviously ideal, but I think, I just don't think there's a point of doing this if it's not, one, if it's not ADA accessible, and then two, as Josh just said, with all the other issues that, you know, even having to encroach on that Shelby Place.
But
portion of
Can
land.
it cross after it?
I'm sorry.
Can it be on both? And go down like across it? Widow's development there, the back corner of Shelby, and then go down the left side, and then you're diverting all that around Buttermilk and all through there where you have the bank to deal with, and then it catches most of your residential or future development.
We just have to run that by the DOT to see if they'd give us
I mean, that'd be
cross,
kind of a lot.
because they have to prove the
Yeah.
crosswalk.
And,
But I mean, that would be like one crosswalk right there.
I mean,
Dillard Road's a busy road, but it's
Yeah.
by no means that you can still cross it.
well, you're going to have to slow down the traffic. Yeah. I mean, that's, people fly up through there, and you know, I've thought from the beginning, why don't we look at an elevated boardwalk? So we don't have to change elevations going through Shelby Place. Just go straight out. Walk out through there. I don't know why that couldn't be ADA compatible, compliant.
well, the bank on the edge of 106 drops straight off in the creek. We had talked about that. There's no way. I don't know, and Lamar, you can come up and give your opinion on it, but we discussed driving anything into that field slope, and they don't want to, you know.
I think Buck's talking about going over the creek.
Over the
Guido's, and then just having it all elevated
All the
through
way
Shelby
down,
Place.
all the way down
And
to,
then looping back in.
yeah,
just
all the way down
elevating it
to
where
Newman's Law
You
Office.
meet the ADA. But then you
Oh,
create
when
the
you leave
issue.
and go into the Shelby Place.
Go
it
in,
just be
yeah.
Elevated
Exactly.
all the way around instead of dropping that in there like the proposal.
Boom,
was.
yeah.
That's right.
Just have a level boardwalk out through there. It can be lit. This lit is not a problem at all, as far as I'm concerned. We can do solar lights on the uprights, you know, maintenance and liability in the wooded area. We got maintenance liability in wooded areas on sidewalks that we've got now. I mean, there's a lot of things here that I just think are,
Well, I think
Or
with the
false
one, we have
flags.
to go back to Shelby Place because that's a totally different plan.
well, I mean, we could
It
still
was.
follow their easement.
But they
want it down.
They wanted
we
it
have at
down.
least one here, and I know that they wanted it low to where they didn't see it. So if you come through there, they're going to be looking at it. Now that just, I mean, they may approve that, but it probably have to go back through that whole approval process with Shelby Place.
But I think, and that's fine. I just, you know, I think the benefits of having it on the left-hand side far outweigh the benefits of having it on the right-hand side. And if it's a wooden, natural boardwalk, I think the impact on Shelby Place is even less. You know, we let it weather. 4x4, 6x6s weathered.
But we asked the more, yeah, his
Lamar?
opinion. It'd be an engineered structure. It'd have to be designed. The right of way obtained would be somewhat similar. But as Josh said, I think the biggest pushback I heard back on Shelby was they did not want anything elevated or lit within their property because they didn't want to see it. So I think you'd have to go back and start all that again and probably have another community vote, would be my understanding.
Well, I think if the Shelby Place Homeowners Association thinks it's worth taking a look at, I think it's worth us taking a look at it.
Is there a deadline on the grant, Josh, to apply?
I think there's opportunity to apply. I think, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, through next year.
Yeah, I mean, the grant's open, from my understanding, until 2026, they're saying it's sooner the better.
They're saying basically they had not had many applications. They want us to get this in as quickly as possible, but what? But you asked for,
So if it's $1 million project, it'd be 800,000. Yeah.
right, so we have to have those numbers put together by our engineer and then submit it.
I think the last process with Shelby took several months.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the amount, but it's a very long process.
And I'm open to get beat up if anybody absolutely feels like it needs to go down the right-hand side. For any reason other than monetary. Because I think as far as safety is concerned, as far as future development is concerned, left-hand side is it.
Where do we want to go with this? Should we go back to the Shelby Place Homeowners
See if they'll
Association
even consider it, for one thing,
and see if they'd consider it? Yeah.
and if they're.
Yeah, if they don't consider it, then it's a moot point.
Yeah.
And I'll concede and shut up.
And I think with
Well,
the
maybe.
option of crossing up there to corner. Show. And then putting sidewalk on the left hand side going. Law, on down.
Well, Josh and I have very good communications with the leadership with the homeowners association. We'd be willing to go and see if they would be interested in considering this. Yeah. Nope. Yes, that's right. Okay, shall we leave it at this then, that Josh and I will communicate with the homeowners about this alternative plan and see if they're willing to entertain a proposal?
That's a start.
Commissioner Lee?
Yep. What about Eric's idea about splitting it? We're gonna pursue that with DOT, too, Judge?
We could ask.
We'll ask them.
Might as well.
Okay. We want to get this right. So that's what we'll do. We'll approach Shelby Place. Okay, thank you. Our next item will be. Go ahead.
The environmental impact.
Okay,
And also, once we then at Mill Creek Live.
okay, Bill. I know you're in Shelby Place. I would suggest you share that your concerns with the homeowners folks, because we're just going to be asking them to consider it. Okay?
Yeah. They don't want to. All of those things.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next item will be item number 11, sanctuary on First, phase 1 and 2, final plat approval. Michael Mathis.
Thank you, Mayor. So the final plat for phases 1 and 2 of the sanctuary on First subdivision was submitted to the planning department on August 23rd, 2023. The overall acreage of the area to be subdivided is 5.55 acres. According to the final plat prepared by Aaron Garrett Land Surveying, none of the 11 proposed lots have changed in size since the preliminary plat approval. This memo is accompanied by a letter of approval from the town's Public Works Director, Lamar Nix. According to Mr. Nix, the roadway, wastewater system, water distribution system, and electric distribution system have been installed according to the plan. The Town of Highlands Planning Board reviewed this proposal on August 29th, 2023. They recommended that the final plat be approved, but also wanted to see the sidewalk on Oak Street connected with the sidewalk on North First Street. However, they didn't want to see the sidewalk extended if it would cause a lot of vegetation to be removed. The staff recommendation is to approve the sanctuary on First, phases 1 and 2 final plat as submitted. And I've also got Mr. Jeff Weller from Summit Architecture here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
I'll move to approve the final plat approval for the sanctuary on First, phase 1 and 2.
Okay. Waiting for a second.
I'll second.
We got a second? I won't call for the vote. I think there might be some more discussion. Buzz, do you have questions?
Yeah, I really would, despite any kind of natural vegetation that might need to be removed, which is also something that can be replaced on the backside of these lots. I'd really like to see that sidewalk continue all the way around this project. And we're going to have people that are walking that sidewalk and they're going to wind up in the road. Sidewalk's going to end, they're going to be in the street.
Right.
And I just think that's a poor solution to something that can be cured. Yeah, I don't want to get rid of the natural vegetation either, but I certainly think that the safety and security of pedestrians coming off the sidewalk is paramount to a laurel bush.
And hearing what you say, Buzz, given the sequence of approval and so forth, the completion of that sidewalk would fall on the town to do the actual paving of the sidewalk. Having access to the bank and easement and everything would be something that we'd have to resolve with the homeowners group.
It's all, and Jeff, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's all on one person as of right now.
Correct.
Yeah, so it'll be,
The 3 lots that are.
okay, yeah, so it will be a easement agreement with him.
Okay,
Is he agreeable to donating the right of way?
Well, I would tell you that it's been discussed many times that it's been discussed with the planning board, at least at that meeting, that they wanted to see things shielded and blocked and growth, et cetera. I went over there today, and just one thing that's unique about this property is the property corner, not the right of way, but the property corner is dead set middle of the road.
Right.
So there is around 440, here I have it all written down here. There's about 440 feet of property along Oak, and 372 feet of that would require an easement to the town. That ranges from 2 feet to 16 feet. If it's put next to the asphalt. And the reason it's a little bit extra is because there is no stretch of that wouldn't require either cutting the bank back or a retaining wall.
Right.
And if there was a retaining wall, that retaining wall will range from 5 feet to 7 feet tall. So you'll have a retaining wall and a sidewalk and a curb and gutter as you walk through there. And on top of that, I just want to point out, I did look at the trees along there, and I realized I didn't even count the rhododendron and mountain laurels because there were way too many to count. And not including saplings smaller than 8 inches or trees smaller than 8 inches, there are 12 trees ranging from 10 inches to 24-inch oaks, and many maples, many oaks. There's 18-inch oak, 24-inch oak, 14-inch oak, 16-inch oak, that all would have to come down to accomplish that sidewalk on this side of the road. And now I'm not suggesting it goes to the other side of the road because those houses are pretty much up against the right of way. So it's not realistic there either. I think it has some issues. The owner is not opposed to talking about it, but the impact of that is along that road is huge. We talked a lot about environmental impacts and trying to make sure that we, keep Highlands the way Highlands is. And I understand, I walk that street a lot. I live on Holt Knob. I walk that street all the time. And even though the new sidewalk is there on phase 2, and maybe it's just me, well, most people that I meet as well, they don't walk on the sidewalk. They're walking in the road because there's hardly ever cars there. Not to say that couldn't change down the road, but there's really, as we talk about developable property, there's really nothing down Oak Street, Oak Lane. I mean, it's, for the most part, it's built out. You might add a house or two or improve a house. But I'm just, the impact on this property and Oak Street would be pretty significant, let's just say, with 12 trees in excess of 10 inches or larger having to be removed to accomplish this. So I just want to raise that and have a retaining wall down that whole side. So.
It seems like it's worth the conversation to ask Josh about an easement for a future sidewalk.
Sure.
We can have a meeting
I've
with
talked before. Is he willing to sit down and talk
Mr.
about
Williams.
it, or-
Yeah, absolutely. We can sit down and discuss it.
okay. With that said, we do have a motion and second on the floor. I'm going to go ahead and call the question, and we'll follow up on the issue we covered. All in favor, please signify by raising your hand, saying aye. Opposed? Okay, 3, 4, and 1 opposed. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item, Michael Mathis again, 60D compliant amendments. Article 16, flood damage prevention ordinance. And let me just, this is something that we have not created. It has been sent to us with the expectation of approval from the state.
That is correct, Mayor. So on May 23rd of 2023, Terry Fox, a National Flood Insurance Program planner with the North Carolina Emergency Management Hazard Mitigation Section, conducted a community assistance visit in Highlands. During the visit, Mr. Fox reviewed the town's Unified Development Ordinance, specifically Article 16, which is our flood damage prevention ordinance, for compliance with the North Carolina general statutes. According to Mr. Fox, our ordinance wasn't up to date with the 160D amendments that went into effect on July 1st, 2021. However, Mr. Fox indicated this was common among other local governments because the UNC School of Government left out this amendment on their GS Chapter 160D checklist of changes to local ordinances, policies, and practices. Therefore, it is required that these ordinance amendments are adopted. The planning board reviewed this on August 29th of 2023, and their recommendation is to approve the UDO amendments. The staff recommendation today is to set a public hearing for the 160D amendments to the flood damage prevention ordinance for our next meeting in October. And I will say that since making those amendments to the ordinance, I have sent the document back to Mr. Fox, who reviewed it, sent back a few more changes, fixed those, sent them back once again for him to approve. He is fine with the way the ordinance looks. And I also have sent the ordinance to our town attorney, Bob Hageman.
I move that we schedule a public hearing at the next meeting.
Second.
Second. All in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if Bob comes, next time he comes to Highlands, I'd like you to show him that problem on Chestnut Street where there's a fence close to a ditch and we don't think we can do anything, but I think there's a Supreme Court ruling that says neighbors are supposed to work together. And maybe you could show him that when he's here next time. You know what I'm talking about?
On Chestnut Street.
Right, Chestnut Walk, right, yeah, Village Walk, yeah.
Okay. Next item, 628 North Fifth Street encroachment agreement. Michael Mathis.
So I got a text message actually before the meeting started or actually it was during the meetings when I saw it. So the representatives for this item are not here tonight, neither the landscapers nor the contractor. So I don't know if the board wants to table this until someone's there to answer any questions you may have about it, because all that I know about it is exactly what I sent to y'all in the agenda packet. But I mean, we can proceed with it.
I would encourage the board to table this then.
I just wanted to ask Lamar one question. Is this on top of existing utilities? Okay. I'm fine tabling it there.
Everybody's in agreement. We will table this until the next meeting.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, number 14, financial matters. Rebecca Schuler, the capital project ordinance approval for Gibson Street and a budget amendment for the Little Bear Pen caution light. Rebecca?
A project ordinance for the Gibson Street project. As part of the requirement for the grant, we had to do a project ordinance. However, when our auditors came at the end of the month, they also would like to see us start doing project ordinances for all of our capital projects. It is not a statutory requirement. We're in compliance, but they just like to have it so that when we capitalize our projects, it kind of gives a lump sum. So that's why you see this. It was $95,000 contract over what the estimate was originally. So that's why you also have a budget amendment attached for $95,000.
Would you like for us to vote on each separate thing?
That would be perfect.
Okay,
So moved.
for 95,000 budget amendment for the Gibson Street project. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Thank you very much. Okay, next one, Rebecca.
The second one is the Little Bear Pen caution light that you guys approved at the last meeting. So DOT has sent us the agreement. Josh and I both have signed that and got it back, but we need the budget amendment for $66,000 to cover that.
Okay,
So
Move
that's
to
what that
approve.
is.
Second.
second, all in favor? Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you. Mhm. Item number 15, elimination of the town board committees. Josh and I just discussed this. I think that I'm very enthusiastic about our new workshop format. I thought it went very well this evening. And from a formality and being formal, I'd just like a motion that we, as a board, agree to eliminate the committees that we have in place for this year.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Right.
Opposed? Oh, okay.
Did he oppose?
We got two.
Two opposed? Did you get the vote?
I am the tiebreaker.
Oh, I was hoping this would happen.
I vote yes.
Great.
Okay,
With emphasis on the word this year. Is that correct?
right.
Well, it is.
Okay. The next item will be closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143-18.11A3, attorney-client privilege, Huff versus the Town of Highlands lawsuit update. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Okay, we're in closed session.
I was hoping you'd get the vote, Mayor.
Oh, man. Why are you against those committees?